everybody. Thank you for joining the first Hemi Labs Twitter Spaces. Here, we're going to be talking a little bit about our pilot program and a couple other things that we have going on at Hemi. I'm Bibi. I'm your moderator. I do developer relations at Hemi. And here we have Max Sanchez, John, Andrew, and Keaton are from Absinthe, and Max and John are from Hemi Labs. So first question goes to the Hemi team. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what Hemi's about?
Yeah, for sure. So what we're building is basically a Bitcoin and Ethereum L2. So from a technical side, we basically took the Optimism stack and added a bunch of Bitcoin goodies into it. And so what that means is we have a Bitcoin security inheritance protocol called Proof of Proof, or POP for short, which is a completely decentralized way of inheriting Bitcoin security to protect against 51% attacks. And we also put a Bitcoin full node directly inside our EVM and into something we call the Hemi virtual machine, or HVM, which basically gives smart contracts direct access to a Bitcoin node. So people can build all kinds of cool DeFi applications and infrastructure directly as EVM appliances.
Awesome. And how long ago did we launch? Just last week for testnet?
Man, it's almost 2 weeks ago, right? Yeah, 2 weeks ago Wednesday, so like 13 days ago, launched incentivized testnet, and we've gotten quite a bit of participation by now. We've had about 1,500 unique addresses doing pop mining, and about a little over 100 unique addresses doing other things on the networks. Exciting to see, and looking forward to continuing to grow it.
Yeah, definitely. Super impressed by those numbers. And anybody that's listening, if you're interested, definitely get on that, join our Discord, and start pop mining. And for the Absinthe guys, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Absolutely. Absinthe is a points as a service platform. So our idea is to measure user effort properly so that projects who like to build loyalty systems or actually reward users for contributive behaviors on their platform have a very good idea as to what behaviors are actually value add and which aren't. So we basically build points platforms. That's where we met Hemi in that capacity, and I think we're having a lot of fun together.
Yes, the program is coming along quite well. There's so much to it. Hemi is officially rolling out the incentive program. Specific dates TBD, but some things are available. We'll get into that. As far as the overall incentive program, can you guys tell us a little bit about it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead, John.
Sure. So our incentive program, we're really focusing on rewarding users for taking advantage of Hemi as a network and making positive contributions. So utilizing Absinthe, where we've created a program that allows users to kind of perform the most basic operations, such as transactions, deploying smart contracts, other low-level items, social initiatives, so on and so forth, as well. We've taken a really good concentration on DevRel initiatives. Those will be coming out momentarily, so users can take advantage of pretty much all angles of Hemi and earn miles for doing so, which is our internal word for points. You want to pivot off of that?
Definitely. I can add more over here. So basically, Absinthe has been really good at actually understanding these activities on-chain as well as off-chain. I think measuring behaviors on-chain and off-chain collectively in the denomination of miles, gives users this comfort of knowing that they can not only use their time, but also their effort on-chain to collectively show value to the Hemi product. And that's been super exciting to see even over the past few weeks.
Yeah, I just want to step in here and say really quick that, we've done this a number of times now, and like we've seen people try to really overcomplicate like how to incentivize and grow a user base. The solution is simple, but it doesn't mean it's easy. Like you want to actually measure the actual protocol and network usage and translate that in a system that end users can understand. So one really exciting part of the pilot program is the leaderboard. So, you transact as you actually use the testnet, you can quickly see, okay, here's how my activity in the network actually translates to miles. And you can see actually like with increased usage, increasing the ranks of the leaderboard, and then seeing, hey, what are the top 100 users actually doing, and how well are they faring? So I think that's actually a really exciting part of like in a very anon world, you can still see, hey, how am I comparing against other power users of the protocol?
Very cool. Love the fact that you gamified the whole process. Makes it a lot more interesting for sure. Some parts of the incentive program, they're still being worked on. Can you just let everyone know what's available right now?
Yeah. Users can hop on right now, get a referral code to get friends, family, other degens involved, whatever it may be, and users can view the leaderboard in its most basic form. The actual task listing for on-chain, social, and DevRel initiatives is not live at this exact moment. It will be momentarily, so stay tuned for that. But all tasking that will be available, if you were to go right now and perform certain operations or social initiatives, you will get the points for those immediately as it comes out. So we will take care of users for coming to Hemi, performing transactions, and hopping on Galaxy and other partners.
And also real quick on just trying out the network, if you go to Discord, we have a faucet so you can get all the testnet Ethereum and testnet Bitcoin you need to try out pot mining, tunneling, which is our word for bridging, and other on-chain activities. So it's a self-contained, just bring a MetaMask wallet, go to our docs, come to our Discord, and just walk through all the on-chain activities and have fun and get points when we start tracking for all the on-chain activities.
And people are dying to know what's included in the pilot program, as we've seen in our Discord. When can we expect some details for
I think very soon, trademark, next couple of days.
Yeah, we'll have I would say stay tuned to socials. So we'll definitely make an announcement. We even might have a pre-announcement in Discord if you're already in there. Might give you a heads up.
Yep, you'll hear it first in Discord, everyone. So as far as what Hemi's doing, there are a couple key terms that we've kind of been promoting quite a bit, more than others. Two of those being proof of proof and super finality. Can you guys explain a little bit more about what those are and why they're significant?
Yeah, for sure. So as probably most people in the crypto world are familiar, Bitcoin is not only a super secure network, but it also has the ability to act as a security, a trust layer for the global ecosystem. And so a lot of people have been trying to inherit Bitcoin security for various purposes for years. If you were in crypto back in 2013, Bitcoin timestamping was starting to become a big thing for legal documents and whatever. And as the crypto space has evolved, it started early days. Everyone spun up their own chain with their own proof of work, and they were all competing for GPUs or FPGAs or ASICs or whatever applied to their network at the time. And then over the years, a lot of people have gone to proof of stake and other types of approaches to consensus, but nothing really matches the ironclad security of Bitcoin. And so when you look at things like proof of stake, you have issues concerning weak subjectivity. You have bootstrapping problems if the node's offline for a long time and it comes online, what's really the canonical chain? Because people can generate, fake old chains from old keys that look equally valid from a consensus perspective. And so we see Bitcoin as kind of this global trust layer, global, security fabric for the blockchain ecosystem. And proof of proof lets us inherit that security and secure our chain in a completely decentralized and transparent way. And when you look at other approaches to Bitcoin security inheritance, like merge mining and whatnot, they all fall a little short somewhere. So some of them, you have to get Bitcoin miners to participate. And so they have to be actively aware of your protocol and participate in it. And you only get the amount of hash rate that you actually get of miners to adopt your protocol. And that wouldn't even be the end of the world. But it turns out you're also essentially giving them the ability to 51% attack your network for free, which is not a good incentive alignment. And some of the other approaches people have tried, they couple the Bitcoin miner still tightly with the sequencing part, the transaction ordering. And so there's been other approaches that basically inherit Bitcoin security, but they let somebody bid and basically perform censorship attacks on the network and stuff like that. And so with proof of proof, what we've done is we've decoupled block creation from long-range consensus. So we can use a consensus protocol like proof of stake, and then we can reinforce it with Bitcoin's proof of work. So we can have a decentralized group of participants making blocks, doing sequencing, and then another group of people performing these security transactions, taking Hemi state, publishing them on that state on Bitcoin, returning those to the network for reward, and then letting the Hemi protocol inherit Bitcoin security that way. And super finality refers to the security level that blocks or transactions on the Hemi network reach once they've gotten confirmed to Bitcoin. So you can think of POP as kind of an additive consensus protocol. So once the Hemi chain inherits Bitcoin security, since we do have our own native consensus as well, it actually, in a lot of senses, is more secure than Bitcoin because an attacker would have to simultaneously 51% attack Bitcoin and our consensus protocol. So once a transaction has reached that state of you have to attack both chains in order to revert it, we call that super finality.
Thank you for all that, Max. So from like a pretty bird's eye view, what's the Hemi vision for combining Bitcoin and Ethereum?
From our side, we kind of see Bitcoin and Ethereum as two parts of one greater whole. On Bitcoin, historically, we've always struggled with programmability. On Ethereum, we've struggled with scalability, and we see, L2 solving that in the Ethereum world. We're starting to see people take that same technology from Ethereum and try to apply it on the Bitcoin side. And what we think this space is eventually going to go kind of these overlay networks or super networks that combine multiple blockchains together in some interesting, value adding way. And so that's what we're trying to do with Hemi as both an Ethereum L2 and a Bitcoin L2. We think this is a case where the value of the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, where, if we can get all of the assets and liquidity from the Bitcoin side and the Ethereum side, if we can create a place for those to come together, we think that'll enable all kinds of cool new applications. And we're also taking a new approach to Bitcoin interoperability, like I mentioned very briefly at the beginning of this. So instead of traditional systems like Bitcoin header relay or other systems where you have centralized third parties and relayers who are signing transactions and attesting to certain queries against Bitcoin state, in our network, we're creating a new way to develop Bitcoin-aware smart contracts by basically giving them direct access to a Bitcoin node that's embedded inside the protocol. So no relayers, no centralized parties, and you have direct access to any data you could get from a indexed Bitcoin full node.
So our approach is to interoperability is our Hemi virtual machine. Can you kind of explain how that works?
Yeah, so that's the Bitcoin node embedded inside the EVM. So basically, we took an EVM, and this was fully backwards compatible with the existing Ethereum EVM. So any smart contract that works on Ethereum or Optimism or any other EVM chain, you can deploy it as is on Hemi, and it'll function just the same. But what we did is we added some new things to the EVM, and we added these new precompiled endpoints, basically, that smart contracts can call to get data about Bitcoin. And so usually, if you look at how people build Bitcoin interoperability tech, say with a header relay system, for example, there will be a relayer who relays a bunch of Bitcoin headers to the chain, and a smart contract keeps track of Bitcoin consensus based on that lightweight header view. And then other parties who are either using the application or incentivized by the protocol have to go and construct transaction inclusion proofs, basically Merkle proofs that demonstrate a Bitcoin transaction exists in a block and then prove that to the canonical chain. And so not only is that complex from a developer perspective, it has a lot of points of failure, and it's very gas inefficient because you're validating these large cryptographic proofs. And so what we're doing with HVM is we're trying to make all the data that any developer who's tried to build Bitcoin-aware applications on Ethereum knows this pain. We're trying to reduce all those points of friction for actually knowing what's happening on Bitcoin, so you can focus on building your app, your business logic, and very quickly and efficiently get the Bitcoin data that your application needs to do what it needs to do. So when you look at a lot of protocols, they will enshrine a certain interoperability protocol. They'll enshrine a certain approach to interoperability in their protocol. Like they'll have one tunnel, again, tunnel is our word for bridge. They'll have one bridge that's built into their network, and all the assets have to flow through that. Or they'll have one system like, a Bitcoin header relay that can do this limited Bitcoin introspection. And so what we're trying to do is change that model and give developers all of the raw Bitcoin data that normally we as protocol developers, building a new L2 or whatever would have access to. We're elevating all that to the EVM so you can go and build your own permissionless bridge technologies. If a new version of BitVM comes out that you want to take advantage of, some new construction or some new cryptographic primitive, you could go and launch that on Hemi with that Bitcoin introspection that we're offering. So you're not dependent on us as the core protocol to upgrade and change an interoperability primitive or whatever. You have everything you need to go build a Bitcoin MEV marketplace or a different bridge technology or a non-custodial Bitcoin staking system. Any of those things, you can build those now at the EVM layer instead of building your own chain that does one single Bitcoin interoperability thing well.
So we also have, we did kind of coin another term, somewhat tunneling. How is that different than bridging?
So as far as a user experience, mentally replace the word tunnel with bridge as you're reading through our docs. But the reason we call it tunnels is because Hemi has a unique position because it's between Bitcoin and Ethereum. And so it's not just bridging assets from both of those networks to Hemi, but there's also the ability to transfer assets from one of those networks through Hemi to the other network. And so hence the word tunnels. We envision once we launch our BitVM secure tunnel, people being able to move large amounts of Bitcoin or other valuable assets on Bitcoin, ordinals, BRCs, 20s, runes, whatever, through the Hemi network into the Ethereum ecosystem. And so we call that tunneling because you're able to not just bridge to our network, but you're able to tunnel through it.
Thanks for clarifying. So going back to the Hemi virtual machine, we've also kind of created our own Hemi Bitcoin kit. How does that fit into everything?
Yeah, good question. So the HVM, the Hemi virtual machine, is that Bitcoin node embedded inside the EVM that I described before. And I think of that as kind of the low level, the analogy would be the assembly language of Bitcoin interoperability. And so the Hemi Bitcoin kit is just a set of smart contracts and other developer tools that we've created that sit on top of that low level Bitcoin interoperability stuff we have in our EVM that makes it easier for developers to use. So the crazy code golfing, gas optimizing developers can go and use HVM and the Bitcoin precompiles directly. But developers who want to get started a little quicker and build easier, have their smart contracts easier to audit, they can use the Hemi Bitcoin kit or HBK, get the Bitcoin data they need without having to deal with those underlying intricacies.
What do you think is a pretty good experience level for devs to come in and start building with Hemi?
I'd say anyone who knows EVM development. So first off, if you're not interested in the Bitcoin specific, talking directly to Bitcoin from your DApp, we will also have Bitcoin and Ethereum tunnels on our network. And so you can build normal Ethereum style applications that just use ERC20 tokens, and you can still build a DApp that takes advantage of Hemi's connectivity to Bitcoin and Ethereum. If you're interested in specifically building Bitcoin interoperability infrastructure or a specific Bitcoin DApp that needs that Bitcoin awareness, the kinds of things you'd normally use, a BTC header relay type solution for, then I think having EVM knowledge is kind of the baseline. Most of if you're going to use Hemi Bitcoin Kit, we try to make it fairly simple. And so it's, high level functions like get UTXOs for address, and then you pass in a number of UTXOs and a page number, right? Or, get balance of address. So if you're using HBK, we've abstracted it pretty high level. And as long as you have some knowledge of how the Bitcoin protocol works, I think it's pretty easy to get started. If you're going to work directly with the HVM stuff, it's more for people with experience working directly with other precompiles. But our guess is most people are just going to use HBK because it's easier and it's also a lot easier on the auditing side.
What kinds of Bitcoin DApps can people build on Hemi?
So if you want to use HBK and have that Bitcoin awareness, the types of apps that we think people are going to build that aren't really possible or practical today with some of the other interoperability solutions, obviously non-custodial DEXs, so being able to trade Ethereum for Bitcoin or some Ethereum asset for a BRC20 or whatever without ever having to move that Bitcoin off the Bitcoin network without having to bridge or tunnel it somewhere. Bitcoin MEV marketplaces are an interesting one. Nobody's really, when you look at the Ethereum ecosystem, people have optimized the MEV extraction space very heavily, right? You have flashbots, you have a bunch of people competing to make the most optimal blocks and extract the most value. That also creates a centralization pressure on Ethereum to some extent. So you want competition in that space. And on the Bitcoin side, people aren't really doing that. Mining pools are doing some sort of MEV themselves to some extent, but that the Bitcoin introspection that we have with Hemi, we think could make a real practical Bitcoin MEV marketplace or transaction accelerator possible. So if you're trying to get a Bitcoin transaction through, you could top up the fees you're paying on it in USDC or Ethereum or whatever. We think that's an interesting use case. This is going to be a little bit longer term, but we think some of the ideas that people have, some of the constructions in the BitVM space can be reworked and applied to truly non-custodial staking, so no covenant emulation or anything like that. So we think that's going to be an interesting application. Bitcoin-based lending protocols using the native token without using the bridged asset. And we're excited to see what else people come up with.
So speaking of that, there are a couple of other programs that Hemi is rolling out, in the process of rolling out. And this is our developer outreach program. And this includes grants and bounties. So if there are any projects that you're interested in pursuing, definitely reach out. Can you guys give any updates on that and the status of these programs?
Yeah, so like BB said, we're going to have grants and bounties. So bounties are going to be for projects that we've kind of spec'd out and we want to see built. So for example, some of them will be those HVM, HBK applications that I just talked about, a Bitcoin MEV marketplace and so on. And then the grants program is more for if you have your own idea, whether that's Bitcoin related at all or not, it could be a cool new DeFi protocol, could be a protocol you've already launched in other chains and you want to bring into the Hemi ecosystem, anything that you're working on, or if you have an idea and you want to run it by us and maybe get some support, some review, whatever, that all goes through or will go through the grants program.
Something I'd like to add on to is that, we wanted to make a kind of a designation towards like bespoke grants. So we are, really looking at working with projects and ensuring, we can go kind of above and beyond where other chains maybe have not. So accommodating a different type of needs. So definitely something if you're looking to develop, get in contact with us. We'd love to chat and work with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. And one last thing in the interest of time is something that we're working on, Chain Builder. Can you guys speak a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. And I'll keep this one short. So Chain Builder, basically, when we look at what Hemi's built so far, we're a Bitcoin and Ethereum L2. We have this POP security inheritance, and we have this Bitcoin interoperability technology we've built. And the long-term goal is to scale that out into a tree of chains, in a way, a network of networks. And so the way that POP works, we can basically turn Hemi into the security aggregation layer. So Hemi will publish data to Bitcoin, and then 100 or 1,000 other chains could all secure themselves to Hemi and benefit from that Bitcoin security by proxy without having to go directly to Bitcoin and pay those high publication costs. And also on the Bitcoin interoperability side, the way we built it out, we can launch chains in the Hemi ecosystem that have a synchronized view of Bitcoin with the Hemi L2. And so you could have a bunch of L3s and an L2 and L4s in the future, whatever, that all of this synchronized view of Bitcoin, they can all interoperate between each other based on that synchronized view of Bitcoin and of Ethereum that we're already getting from being an Ethereum L2 in order to scale Bitcoin plus Ethereum applications or launch chains for bespoke use cases. So say you need a chain dedicated to AI, and maybe you don't care about the Bitcoin interoperability like HVM, HBK stuff, but you still want your AI application to have access to Bitcoin and Ethereum assets in a secure manner. That can make sense to launch as a Hemi chain as well. So using it, one, for scalability of just what we're already doing, and then B, how do we extend Bitcoin security and the access to Bitcoin and Ethereum assets in a way that people can build bespoke chains that do specific things and join into that ecosystem.
Right on. Thank you so much, Max. We have one question from the community, and I believe that's it. So what makes Hemi different from other projects that try to connect BTC and Ethereum chains?
Good question. So two things. One, the way that we're inheriting Bitcoin security. So other approaches, they're based either on merge mining or proof of transfer. And like I mentioned earlier, merge mining has the incentive issue that Bitcoin miners can 51% attack your chain, essentially zero opportunity cost while they keep mining Bitcoin. And other protocols have issues where you can basically bid to become the sequencer and use that to perform censorship attacks. In this way, and also the other ways don't really play nice with other consensus protocols like proof of stake. So the way that we're doing it is very flexible. It lets us do this security inheritance for Chain Builder, so it lets us scale it out very easily. And it also lets us use decentralized consensus mechanism like Ethereum style proof of stake with that Bitcoin security inheritance. And then secondly, on the Bitcoin interoperability side, we're going a layer deeper with how we're actually talking to Bitcoin. So instead of just having essentially an Ethereum L2 with the Bitcoin header relay system, the same thing that's been available on Ethereum for almost a decade in some format, we're going that layer deeper with actually integrating Bitcoin deeply into our EVM to create the Hemi virtual machine. And we think that opens up a whole new world of Bitcoin aware dApps that become practical, secure, easier to build, easier to audit. So I'd say those are the two big differences. And on the kind of roadmap technology side, on the Bitcoin tunnel, so the Ethereum tunnel acts similar to how everyone's already familiar with Ethereum L2 bridges working. We are going to make it bi-directional, and so that's going to let us bring in assets from Bitcoin and then again bring those into the Ethereum ecosystem, which we think is exciting. And then on the Bitcoin tunnel side, we're going to start with a over-collateralized multi-sig threshold signature system, but then that's going to transition to a BitVM based tunnel. So that should be able to handle very high throughput of Bitcoin asset value in a secure and very capital efficient way.
Thanks, Max. Yeah, it's super exciting, and we're really excited to be here launching testnet. Thank you all so much. Please definitely check out Absinthe and join us in Discord. It's just discord.invite/HemiXYZ. Come say hi, follow us on Twitter, do your thing. If anybody has any other follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to any one of us. Thank you all so much for your time.
Thanks, everyone.